Yeah, so I hope you'll enjoy another text exploration here of this Karma Chagmé text. He was a yogi from the 17th century who held Kagyu and Nyingma lineages and was the founder of the the Karma Kagyu school. So there's a total synthesis here of Mahāmudrā and Dzogchen, which are two types of high-level meditations. The easiest, most simple meditation, but the highest, maybe too simple um, for many people. Yeah, so in these sort of top yana, this ninth yana, or the end of the yogas of Naropa or Naguma, the highest level. So here, there's nothing to do, but one needs to recognize the nature of mind in order to do nothing. And I'm very happy that this text mentioned that. It's probably one of the first mentions I've heard in a while of that vital point that in order to do nothing, you have to rest your whole body in awareness. So your body, your thoughts, your emotion form a kind of combo meal, right? A state of consciousness. So you could be happy right now, like this. Hands are happy, chest happy, everything happy, thoughts happy. That's your state of consciousness. You could be neutral, body neutral, thoughts neutral, voice neutral. That's your state of consciousness. You could be angry, you know, not emotions taking your whole body. That's your state of consciousness. So, what is your state of consciousness right now? See, your body, your thoughts going through your head, emotional energy, temperature in the room. Let it be outside too. Just zooming out to include your whole state of consciousness is very, very powerful. And that's why there's no doing involved in that. People ask me about teaching practices, generation and completion stage practices, this Kirim and Zokrim, with all these rituals. But I really feel we're already doing enough rituals. We have rituals of being sad, rituals of getting angry, getting triggered at the same things over and over again. It's a ritual. So why do we need to adopt more rituals? Yeah, maybe some of them beneficial, but some of us we're kind of done with them, done with the doing. Mhm. And so then once you start to peel off the layers of contriving and fabricating, and it's almost like the 12 links of dependent origination are almost kind of going in reverse then. You're starting to see the names that you're applying and uh, the denser consciousness and of the thought consumption and all kinds of things like that. And then all the way back to fabrication and ignorance itself in the beginning. So if we had all these levels of doing right now, just resting here, not doing anything, they start to, their fists being released, fists being released into pure presence. So that's how it's the highest, but the most simple approach, okay? So let's read about it. Let's see what Karma Chagmé has to say. This is a 1998 publication um, with Alan Wallace translating Gyatro Rinpoche's commentary on Karma Chagmé's text. All right, so many very intelligent, great masters here sharing the Dharma with us in a way that is very unique. This book called Spacious Path to Freedom is very unique, actually, and it's so packed with vital information and interesting information. So let's hope it continues like that. Oh, yes. So we were talking about bliss last time, and the bliss that arises from the lack of self grasping. It's really that simple, which is essentially emptiness. When self grasping ceases, when other sentient beings start to imbue your mind, kind of occupy the presence with you, mm, then there's a bliss. It feels so wonderful to just show love or to even rest in pure presence. It starts to permeate your body, this kind of, well, like somebody said to me earlier today, it's a heart space. Yeah, it's really like a heart space. I feel like that gives you the warmth using that term. All right. Which also could go in line with the Dharmadhatu, the great Bindu, the whole thing, the fourth Somaya of Oneness. It's a great heart space. I'm going to try to trademark that, but I have to fight the person who told me about it. Okay, so it says here, for example, if you were to take rebirth in one of the miserable states of existence, such as a hell realm, beings there would inflict great harm on you. If you were able to recognize these apparent inflictors of harm as emanations of the Buddha, that hell realm would be instantaneously transmuted into a pure realm. See, this is really telling you how powerful the mind is, and we see evidence of this so we can use our inductive reasoning. When we look, we see people creating hell in their mind all the time. We've probably done it to ourselves. Now, how high were your flames? How hot did it get? For me, it got pretty hot. you know, um, we create hell in our own minds. In fact, everything can be perfectly fine on the outside, and we will feel like we're in hell. That's how powerful the mind is. So, this is one way to transmute suffering into joy. Another possibility is to realize the various beings who appear in your field of experience as the natural appearances of your own pure awareness. This realization leads directly to Buddhahood, bypassing the need to go to a Pure Land. Whether you gain this realization in a miserable state of existence, in the intermediate state, in the dream state, or right now, the end result is the same. Okay, hold up. Back on up, please. All right, so here says something very important that I encourage you all to participate in. It's very radical. The people that you're having grudges with, little beefs with, continuously clear your browser history, see them as Buddha. Don't even go into that long, proliferating stuff that many people want us to join them in. Like they bring up stuff to you and they want you to think about it and have it in your head. Just wish them liberation and that's it. Forget about the past. Let the past go. Revisiting it and trying to rehatch it out intellectually is not going to work. It's going to be a waste of energy. Really, you can, any so called enemies and people you're having problems with, even world leaders and things like that, you can see them as liberated beings for your own good. And then you'll still be able to have that sort of a phenomenological distinction of seeing that they are still in samsara. Um, so it says here you can gain realization in miserable states of existence. In the bardo, when you die, as you're dying, you can gain it there. In the dream state, when you go to sleep, or even right now. Okay? It's this pure presence. We flicker in and out of it, but we know it. It's our natural mind and the environment all settled into pure presence. Open heartedly. Yeah? We always have to include that. Mhm. So, some sentient beings can be subdued through peaceful, enriching, or powerful methods. Others, whose minds cannot be tamed by these means, must be subdued by ferocity. If you transmute the mental afflictions without being overwhelmed by them, each one arises as a display of primordial wisdom. For instance, the mental affliction of delusion arises as the primordial wisdom of the absolute nature of reality. Right there in the last line, they're talking about the five wisdoms. So every translator has different ways of presenting these, and therefore nobody really knows the five wisdoms. But it says the mental affliction of ignorance, which is the very first of the 12 links of dependent origination, Patitsamutpata. And then it's also the root cause of all confusion is this ignorance, creating a self and other, ignorance of the unity. And um, when ignorance arises, it's a distortion of the wisdom of the Dhammadhatu. See, it says wisdom of absolute nature of reality. I've never heard that wisdom translated like that. Um, but thankfully, we can decode it a little bit and understand that's the wisdom of Dhammadhatu, which happens to fall in line with our Togya stuff. Ah, Lundub saying from selfhood to Buddhahood. Can you make that into a bumper sticker? You get rich. Okay, so be present and allow the knots of the snake of your mind to release. When mental afflictions arise, simply be present and rest in that state. See, everybody, I'm not steering you wrong. It's just a radical practice. You don't have a lot of people that are like, hey, let's stick together as a group and all do this. No matter which age you are, no matter what background you are, um, let's all try this. I think we're all worthy of the freedom, and it's simple enough to where anybody can reach it. But if you're just being okay with your samsara, with your suffering, then you're not going to reach it. There's a part of you that wants to be in samsara still. And it's not a fault or anything. Maybe there's more karma that needs to burn off or something like that. But you can see a almost willingness in every person to continue to stay in their situation. It's like a samsaric Stockholm Syndrome. All right, so here it says if the mental afflictions are restrained, as if caught by the throat, this will cause them to flow out again. If you try to suppress conceptualization, this will reactivate it. The reason for this resurgence is that the root of the mind has not been severed, and there has been no fundamental transformation. We're back on this very profound point that this whole section is kind of elaborating on. If you try to suppress conceptualization, that will reactivate it. Wow. Please keep that in mind, everybody. If you're confused, why we just let it be. It's because the more you try to do stuff, and we have several people that are asking about which practices should I do to complement my Dzogchen. None of them. Don't do any of them. Let Dzogchen complement the other practices. You see? Um, exactly. Yeah, suppression can be so unhealthy, and it's very rough on the body too, and everything. So, yeah, so you have not yet transmuted the poison into medicine. And I want to say, when you're able to be with your sadness like a friend, or be with your anger or your desire, and sort of let it be, almost in a state of anarchy. You're like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to be like this. Um, then all of a sudden, there's this liveliness that takes place, this raw energy, and it's almost like You could be upset and it feels more enlightened than when you're happy because you're more in it. You see, you're more into the presence. And all these different moods that we have, sadness, happiness, those are just names for energy, for different states of consciousness. So if you suppress ideation, it comes bounding right back like a yo-yo. If you try to soften it up, it just gets tough again. So without blocking it, affirming, or grasping onto it, just rest in equality. Very nice. So beautiful. At this point, uh, uh, let's see, Thomas saying here, one second. Let conceptualization happen and you sit with it and naturally resolves itself. Exactly. Yeah, we don't, even though conceptualization blocks us and sets up these psychic boundaries, we don't want to go to war with our conceptualization. Many of you are very intelligent. In fact, all of you um, seems to be a common trait. And you don't have to get rid of that intelligence. This just empowers your intelligence. It sets it free so your intelligence isn't caged in to a kind of egomaniac echo chamber, right? Um, Many intelligent people play themselves, and it ends up they sort of reverse their own intelligence on themselves. But others who can use the environment, um, a lot of you listen to your environment, you listen to other smart people and other compassionate people, and that way your intelligence will always be sort of balanced and fact checked and also humbled and things like that. So, all right, so this point can be understood in terms of a common Buddhist metaphor. If you have to walk over a very large area with many thorns on the ground, there are two approaches you might take to protect your feet. You could buy thousands of square miles of leather to cover the ground, or you could wear a pair of leather shoes, which would serve the same function. Mhm. In the course of spiritual practice, many situations cause suffering as if they were thorns. Instead of manipulating these many aggravations one by one, like trying to cover the earth with leather, cultivate mindfulness, introspection, and conscientiousness in your mind stream. By so doing, you will protect yourself from your own mental afflictions. In this way, your mental afflictions cannot be easily stimulated by external aggravations. Yeah, and you don't need to cultivate mindfulness, introspection, and conscientiousness because this happens naturally through the awareness practice. So by trusting awareness, you are putting on your own shoes, right? Oh, that's from Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatara. Mhm. Very good. So the text deals explicitly with practice. This text, when mental afflictions and thoughts arise, do not counteract them with specific antidotes. See, this is the practice. So this text is actually perfect for us. This is talking about the actual practice aspect. And do not block them, do not follow after them, do not affirm them, but simply rest in equality. By resting in equality and simply recognizing the instantaneous arising and passing of ideation, you will be protected from coming under the sway of your mental afflictions. That is like putting on leather shoes. The chapter on breakthrough, the mode of being in which the mind and awareness are integrated, states the indivisibility of the mind and awareness is great bliss. Thinking the mind is present in the cycle of existence, examine all that is pure in its own state. Encounter the three embodiments, indivisible from great bliss as Samantabhadri. Wow, it actually mentioned the female. instead of Samantabhadra, the male that they usually mention. So this is starting to be more of a mother text, more of a feminine aspect text in many ways, but not, it's totally unionized, masculine and feminine. But you see a nice balance here with the mention of Samantabhadri. So encounter the three embodiments, that's the three kayas, indivisible from great bliss as Samantabhadri. So encountering the three kayas as emptiness. Realize ideation as your own spiritual mentor. Recognize the indivisibility of the spiritual mentor and self-awareness. Ideation itself dissolves into the center. Awareness is self-empowered and capable of supporting itself. Yeah, and right there, when they say dissolves into the center, they're probably talking about that little heart space, that soft spot in the middle of your rib cage that I mentioned earlier. And you can use that trick if it helps you. It's almost like a little black hole right there. You can funnel all your mental energy, emotional energy into that area, that little spot, and it kind of takes everything. So determine for yourself the freedom from the barriers of guarding the various pledges. Thoughtfully investigate the body with ideation and recognize your own nature as the body of the Tathagata. I love it. No holding back in this text. You don't hear that common trope, that common narrative in the Buddha Dharma. Oh, we're just sentient being, us normal sentient beings. We don't know what the Buddha is like, and blah blah blah. That's they don't want you to talk like that. They want you to embrace Buddhahood. And when you do, it doesn't mean that you're God Almighty on a hierarchy, on a high ground above everybody. That's not what that means. Buddhas are so humble. They're humble, peaceful, real people. You know, to put this Buddhahood so out of reach and constantly say the Buddha is over there, I'm over here. I will never be like the Buddha. The Buddha is divine. I am not divine. Well, you're drawing the hugest line there. You know, talk about a border, a wall that you're putting up. You know, you're making Buddhahood unobtainable. This happens not only in Vajrayana and Mahayana, but also in Dzogchen groups. They use the same old line. Oh, we're just average sentient beings, but the Buddhas, they did da 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 da, Um, and maybe that works for some people, but definitely not the spirit of Dzogchen, in my opinion. So thoughtfully investigate speech with ideation, recognize your own nature as the speech of empty sound. This sounds like a typical kind of academic translation here. Thoughtfully investigate speech with ideation. It was just telling us that ideation is the culprit. It was just telling us that ideation is the huge, kind of block there, and just to let ideation be so that it can soften up by itself, right? Now it's now the translation is sounding like it's saying, "Oh, go do some ideation." No, it's I'm 100% positive that it's saying when you use awareness to look into your own speech, it's empty sound. You're not going to find that through thoughtfully investigating it with ideation. That to me is a very low grade translation right there, like 2 out of 10. Uh, Definitely not my favorite translation. Thoughtfully investigate the body with ideation. Recognize your own body as Buddha. You're not going to do that with ideation. You're going to do that with awareness. I think there were some Tibetan words. There is that Tibetan word was probably not there. The Tibetan word for ideation, which I mean, this is sem, your conditioned mind, and there are many words for that ideation. Yeah, but as long as we're here to clarify, so thoughtfully investigate primordial wisdom and recognize your own nature as unmediated, empty awareness. Whole, clear, and pervasive. All right. I'm going to read this line, but first I'm going to say they're obviously talking about awareness here and using the awareness practice. So, this was a while ago, but the translator is definitely off here. So, whole, clear, and pervasive, primordially liberated, devoid of activity and fresh, implicitly liberated, innately pure and fresh, effortless, totally present, and inactive, so called awareness, is awareness due to knowing and clarity. Wow. Well, those are a lot of beautiful words about awareness, and I hope you can see why, when we recognize it's just a simple awareness that's here as you're hearing my voice and um, seeing whatever you're seeing. And it's so simple and right in front of us, yet look at all these beautiful kind of descriptive words that we have here because it may be so simple, but it's also very profound. Okay, so I think we can stop there. Awareness due to knowing and clarity. Awareness has the quality of knowing and clarity, I would say. So we're lucky we can decode this a little bit, which makes it very fascinating. Otherwise, oh my goodness, could probably throw you off pretty easy if you didn't know how to read in between the lines there. Okay, thank you everybody, dear friends, for making this another Dharma Nest today, uh, giving us all the opportunity to take part in this truly meritorious or virtuous Dharma exploration and Dharma talk. Yeah, thank you.